Good day everyone, so hope you're all doing really well. Today's video is going to be a bit different because one of my commenters asked me to look at a specific content creator's video and to debunk it in air quotes. So that content creator is Saintontas. He basically put out a video saying that the current Spiral Biz is unplayable, and I've gone through his entire video, and effectively what it boils down to is that this enemy that you can see on screen, the secret source automaton, is kind of unfair because you need Natlan characters to climb the pillars, and he also had some issues elsewhere in the abyss with the mob design and so on. We'll cover all of that in today's video, but from my personal perspective, if you're someone that's just been keeping up very casually with the game, you would have had enough tools to deal with an enemy like this. There are many units like Shan Yun, Zhongli, Geo Traveler, Gumming. There's so many of these units that you can use just to get up on a pillar, so you don't really even need Natlan characters. And the second half of the current Spiral Biz does reward you for using plunge characters, so you don't need any of the characters. And if you're like me, you might just use your Kokomi and try to brute force climb this up, and if you kind of get it right, well, you'll see, look at that, you can climb with your non-Natlan character. So this is definitely possible, but it's a bit less consistent than using the characters that I mentioned. However, I do feel that if you just kept up casually with the game, then you would most likely either have one of Shilonen, Chaska, Mavuika, or Vanessa. But let's say you don't have any of those characters, you still get a free Kachina, and that's what I will demo for you today. Just using a free Kachina that everyone has available on their account that you do not need to gacha for, you can still do this very easily. Never minding the fact that you can use Shao or other non-Natlan characters to climb up the pillar. So that is what we'll do today, and as you can see here, I'm on my alt account, so we don't have C6 units here. You can see we only have like C0 units, 3-star weapons. Now and again, for very old units like Yelon, we've got an extra constellation and a weapon. That's just a consequence of playing for kind of 5 years, but that's what we're going to be rocking today. So everything you see here is honestly pretty average, and that's the point. The point here is that just by using a collection of very simple strategies, you can beat this abyss very simply. Look at that, I'm grouping up the enemies, I'm interrupting them, I'm getting them to be launched up in the air. We've covered fall damage in the past, and that's a quick way to beat these enemies. I'm using Sucrose here to interrupt the lava monster, once again so that he can't move, and because he's got the pyro aura, I'm using Yelan's E ability because that's gonna do a lot of damage. Once again, it's all about knowing how to play. You can see I avoided the crab trying to interrupt me, didn't quite get off the Hydro Swirl, but that is fine. And then I'm just going to use my abilities for my team to break his shield, and now it's just all about cycling through my abilities and dealing out a lot of damage. In fact, in this abyss, you are rewarded for playing with Farina because you get that 75% boost for your off-field elemental skill damage, and if you combine that with Citron, then Citron's damage boost also gets the benefit. You shred resistance, Yelon gives you an extra damage bonus. It's just very good, and look at that. It's so easy to beat this like a crab, and you didn't need anything special. And now we're going to go here to the automaton. This is the one that a lot of people complained about. As you noticed there, I just quickly popped a Kachina E and then set up my Hyper Bloom, attacking here with the Raiden Shogun. There are lots of little variations you can play. You can hop and swap between Raiden and Nahida to boost the damage, but effectively, look at that, I'm just playing very carefully with my team's cooldowns, ensuring that all of my abilities will be ready at the opportune time. You'll see in just a bit, but look at that, at no point am I allowing myself to run out of steam. I always have an ability, I always have a cooldown, I'm constantly moving. It's just like being able to play a bit more deliberately than just turning your brain off. And look at this, we've got Kachina's cooldown back. We're going to do one hop, boom, easy, fly over, and boom, do the other thing. The enemy loses a bit of health there at the top, so that's the benefit if you do break it. You don't need Natlan characters to do it, you just need to hop on the pillar and break it however you wish to do so. But using a level 69 Kachina was just here to kind of illustrate it. And then from here on, all this is about is just dealing damage, being able to let the Hyper Bloom do its thing. You can see I'm just trying to manage the energy. I've got Kachina on the Favonius. That'll help my Shingshu just get his energy because we need him for the Hyper Bloom damage on Raiden. And then I'll just alternate with Nahida and with the Raiden. And that's kind of how you beat this boss in a very casual way. You don't need C2 constellations, you don't need units that are busted with all of their signature weapons. You just need an account that's well built, decent artifacts, and then you should be able to do this. And with a bit of practice, if you don't get it the first time, you can definitely do it the second time around. But yeah, that is it for this enemy that's honestly very bulky and tanky, and we're not even abusing the 75% plunge damage, well, because we don't have any units here. I don't have Veressa on this Veressa, oh god, I got confused. I don't have that character on this account, but in any case. Right, let's get to the beginning of the Abyss. So this is the part where Saintontas really kind of was irritated by the fact that the enemies kept on taking his energy. And what you'll see now with these two lectors, the entire key with them is that you want at least one animo unit to do the swirls, and the key is to try and get them grouped up to try and reduce their health at the same time, have them both fall in a spot. You can see I'm just moving around very carefully here with Yelan, making sure both of these fall together, because what I can do now with Sucrose is swirl the auras on them onto each other. So basically the Electro and the Pyro are both gonna like start like hitting each other because Sucrose is swirling. Then I've got Farina's pets also doing damage, and now I'm setting up right here towards the end, just using my stamina to avoid the enemy's attacks where possible. Now I've set up, I can tackle this enemy without him draining all of my energy. But you can see I've already almost taken care of half of his health. I've got Farina's pets, I'm using Sucrose to swirl, and that's just what you're going to have to do here. Just wait a bit, try and take care of his health, and then you'll see here he's going to give you, once you take care of the bar, you'll get all of your energy back. And I'm just taking my time now because I'm on the next floor. I want all of my energy, so I'm not using my abilities. I'm just casually doing this and also kind of stalling to show you that on the second half we'll have more than enough time to beat the enemies. But that was very simple, very consistent. You can do that 9 out of 10 times, and you can do it even faster. So right here on the second half, you've got these enemies. We're going to face the Dendro Chicken, which has got a bit of Dendro resistance, but that's not really going to stop us, as you'll see in just a bit. Once again, making sure that both enemies are tagged with Nahida's E, trying to take care of the little pet here first, because then the main boss loses his health. And that's just the way you need to understand Genshin Impact. All of these enemies have very simple mechanics, and as long as you play into those mechanics, like with the chicken here, you want to try and fill up the Electro Bar, you're going to be able to disable it, lower its resistance, and then just do more and more damage. That's kind of the trick. And I think when people like Saintontas just rely on purely brute forcing, just using the account instead of engaging with the game, that's when you kind of see the frustrations and the struggle. But honestly, this is not that difficult, and you can look at many of the F2P clears. There's definitely someone doing a Xiangling national team out there beating this so comfortably, and that's exactly what I'm also showing to you here today. So from my perspective, you don't need Natlan characters, you don't need the latest Veressa, or you don't need to pull specifically for Farina. There are other characters that can also do this very easily, but you are incentivized in terms of the leyline disorder to pull for the current banner units. I'd rather Genshin not do this, rather take out the chunkiness in the Abyss and give us, like, reduce the enemy HP, but then don't give us the leyline disorder. I think that'll be much fairer like they did in the past. Or just rework the entire Abyss and make it more fun, because it is a bit of a boring game mode. Regardless, if you've been keeping up with Genshin Impact, there's no reason that you won't have enough in your account to beat this Abyss. And if you do struggle, there are a ton of free-to-play videos out there showing you exactly how to beat the Abyss. Even the most difficult Abyss, that's the most unfair, someone out there is going to use a free-to-play team that should be relatively relatable, or or how can I put it, should be even worse than what you have on your account, and they're going to do it. So yes, sometimes it is a skill issue, it is a knowledge issue where you don't understand the mechanics, but that's why you've got an in-game tutorial section that you can always consult. You can always go, like I did earlier in the video, go to the boss, see how the boss's mechanics work, understand what options are available to you, and in this case the free easy Kachina option can be used, and many other options can be used as well. And for today's video I'm using my alt account with these weaker characters. On my main account, if I start using units with more than 2 constellations, this abyss is super easy, so not being able to do it, I don't think there's really an excuse for it, unless you haven't been keeping up with the game, in which case you probably just need to do a few practice rounds, Saintontas. That's just going to be my honest assessment. Regardless, we're nearing the end of the video. What I can say is that the current abyss, as my final thoughts, is fair. There's enough there are enough teams that you can play. What was not fair about the Spiral Abyss was during the Mavika Sitlali era, where you were heavily incentivized to get those characters, and even in some of the overworld events, combat events, you kind of won if you had Mavrika, and I didn't really like that direction, the direction Honkai Impact the Third and Honkai Star Rail's taking. This thing of forced necessity is not always that good. I'd rather that we have many options to play the game, many viable options, and then just a bit of a bonus if you then pull on the latest banner units, but that bonus must be like 10%, but not something out of necessity. If Genshin can keep that balance, if they can keep the corporate greed in check, then honestly the Abyss is not that bad to play in all the other game modes. From my perspective, this Abyss is pretty easy, so let me know what you guys think. Alright, that's it from my side. I think that's enough for today. Thanks for watching. Cheers.